Welcome to News Nexus. Today we ask a critical question that is shaking the foundations of the global economy. Which currency will be the next to collapse? Currencies are more than just paper or numbers on a screen. They represent trust, stability, and the credibility of governments. But history has shown us again and again, currencies are not invincible. They rise, they fall, and when they collapse, entire nations are dragged into chaos. Think of Germany's Weimar Republic, where a wheelbarrow of money couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Think of Zimbabwe's trillion-dollar banknotes, or Venezuela's Bolivar, once respected, now worthless. And here we are in 2025, with global debt at record highs, inflation still haunting households, and geopolitical rivalries tearing holes in financial systems. The question is not if another currency will collapse, but which one falls next, and how that collapse will shake the world. Every modern currency rests on two fragile pillars, trust and stability. People must believe their money will still hold value tomorrow. Investors must believe governments can pay their debts. But when nations overspend, when central banks lose credibility, or when corruption eats away at institutions, those pillars begin to crack. Argentina's peso shows us this weakness. Turkey's lira reminds us how quickly trust can vanish. These are not isolated struggles, they are warnings. Economists point to 4 red flags. The danger signs of collapse. First, runaway inflation. When salaries can't keep up with rising prices, money itself loses meaning. This is how Zimbabwe and Venezuela fell. Second, unmanageable debt. When governments borrow far beyond their means, they either default or print money. Both paths destroy currencies. Third, political instability. Corruption, weak leadership, and reckless populism drive away investors. Without outside support, currencies starve. And fourth, overdependence on a single export. When an economy leans too heavily on oil, gas, or one commodity, a sudden price crash can wreck the entire currency. Now let's look at nations standing on this edge. Argentina's peso. Inflation above 200% a year. Families storing dollars under mattresses because their own money cannot be trusted. Without reforms, Argentina may be forced into full dollarization, just as Ecuador did 2 decades ago. Turkey's lira, battered by political interference and shrinking reserves. Investors losing faith. Ordinary citizens watching their savings erode month by month. One more shock could trigger freefall. Nigeria's naira, the lifeblood of Africa's largest economy. Corruption, oil dependency, and endless devaluations have broken confidence. On the streets, the black market rate often reveals the truth. People no longer trust the official currency. Lebanon's pound, already collapsed. Over 90% of its value wiped out. Bank deposits frozen. Life savings gone. The economy survives only on remittances and black market dollars. But here's the real question. Could major currency collapse? Could it happen to the yen, the euro, even the US dollar? Japan's yen, weighed down by decades of low growth, massive debt, and an aging population. Yet Japan's global credibility and deep reserves make outright collapse unlikely. The euro, always under tension. Nations like Italy and Greece drag heavy debt, while stronger economies demand strict control. But the European Union's collective weight has kept the euro alive, even through crisis, and the US dollar, still the reserve currency of the world. Nearly 80% of trade is done in dollars. But America carries a staggering $34 trillion in debt. China, Russia, and BRICS partners openly push for alternatives. The dollar's end, if it comes, will not be sudden collapse, but slow erosion. And that brings us to the BRICS challenge. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are exploring a new trade currency to rival the dollar. If successful, weaker nations may abandon their collapsing currencies faster, seeking refuge in a new system. Meanwhile, digital disruption is reshaping money itself. China's digital yuan is already being tested in international trade. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, though volatile, are lifeboats for citizens trapped in hyperinflation. When people lose faith in government money, they turn to crypto wallets instead of banks. But currency collapse is never just numbers on a screen. It is human suffering. In Zimbabwe, salaries couldn't buy groceries. In Venezuela, families carried stacks of bills just to buy bread. In Lebanon, pensions and savings evaporated overnight. Collapse punishes the vulnerable first: the elderly, the poor, the children. And when collapse happens, nations have few options. Some dollarize, abandoning their own currency entirely. Some cut zeros and rebrand their banknotes. But unless corruption is rooted out, unless debt is controlled, the cycle repeats. So who falls next? The list is not long, but it is serious. Argentina's peso, Turkey's lira, Nigeria's naira, Lebanon's pound, already gone, and many smaller fragile economies in Africa, South America, and Asia, all at risk. But the lesson is bigger than any one nation. Currency collapse never stays contained. It ripples outward, disrupting trade, crashing markets, creating refugees, and redrawing geopolitical maps. And here's the truth. No currency is safe forever. Not the peso, not the lira, not the naira, not even the dollar. All money depends on trust. And once trust is broken, it is almost impossible to rebuild. So, which currency will be the next to collapse? The cracks are already showing. Whether in Buenos Aires, Ankara, Lagos, or Beirut, the seeds of crisis are planted. The question is, will leaders act in time, or will collapse decide the outcome? Here at News Nexus, we will continue following this story, because the next currency collapse will not just be a financial event. It will reshape markets, rewire geopolitics, and change lives across continents. Thank you for watching News Nexus. If today's analysis helped you see the bigger picture, support the channel with a like, a subscription, and by turning on notifications. And let's open the discussion. Which currency do you think will fall next? This is News Nexus. Stay informed, stay prepared, and as always, thank you for joining us.